Welcome to Brianna Speaks, where real stories, deep dives, and unapologetic truths come alive. I'm Brianna, and I'm here to bring you bold perspectives, compelling conversations, and everything in between. So, let's talk about it. Part 1. The issue. Jeff Wittek just had another major surgery on his eye. This one lasted 5 hours and cost him around $90,000 out of pocket. And Jeff's been through several surgeries like this since the accident. Meanwhile, David Dobrik, who caused that very accident, is out here on Snapchat showing off a $20,000 Cartier ring he bought 4 years ago. He's laughing about how ridiculous the purchase was, saying he doesn't even wear it anymore and calling it his craziest purchase ever. Let's backtrack a bit to give some context. For those of you who don't know, Jeff was seriously injured during a stunt gone wrong while filming one of David's vlogs. We're talking about an excavator swinging Jeff around over a lake until it ended with a horrifying crash. The aftermath left Jeff with severe injuries, including damage to his skull and eye that's required multiple surgeries. And ever since, there's been this lingering question. Why hasn't David fully stepped up to help cover Jeff's medical expenses? Now, to be fair, David has claimed in the past that he's willing to help pay for Jeff's surgeries. But here's the thing.
Fuck off. My face.
Actions speak louder than words, and right now, his actions, they're not painting a great picture. Posting about a $20,000 Cartier ring while Jeff is recovering from another surgery just feels tone deaf. The internet has been quick to call him out. And honestly, it's hard to blame them. People are frustrated and they're not holding back. From Twitter threads to Instagram comments, the backlash is intense, and it's putting David in an even worse light than before. And let's not forget, this isn't just about one bad Snapchat post. This is about years of controversy and questionable behavior surrounding the entire Jeff Wittek situation. David's spending habits, fruit punch fountains, multi-million-dollar homes, and now this ring are making people ask, how does he have all this money for himself but seemingly not enough to fully support Jeff? So that's where we are right now. Jeff's recovering from yet another surgery, paying for it himself, while David's living it up, casually reminiscing about expensive jewelry, and honestly, it's not a good look. But let's dive deeper into this, because there's so much more to unpack. Part 2, Jeff Wittek's struggles. So let's talk about Jeff. This man has been through hell and back since that accident in 2020. And we're not just talking about a one-time thing. His injuries have led to multiple surgeries, each one costing tens of thousands of dollars. His most recent procedure? A grueling 5-hour operation to remove metal plates and adjust his eye by a few millimeters to help with his double vision. Jeff posted about it on Instagram, saying he feels ready to run through a brick wall after the surgery. But then came the gut punch in the comments. Someone asked if David had contributed, and Jeff replied, I paid about $90,000 out of pocket for this one, but it was worth every penny. Let that sink in. And this isn't the first time he's footed the bill himself. Over the years, Jeff has been open about how expensive his medical journey has been. Back in May, he even said he was going to a doctor who's worked with the Kardashians. That's top-tier care, but it also comes with a hefty price tag. In one of his podcast episodes, Jeff shared that surgeries like these take a massive emotional toll on him.
I just wanted to say, we're 4 years in to this madness, this roller coaster ride.
He admitted that he often spirals before going under the knife, venting his frustrations on social media or lashing out in anger. And honestly, who could blame him? He's putting his body and his bank account on the line to fix injuries that, let's not forget, happened because of someone else's poor decisions. He's been upfront about the pressure he's felt to keep working and producing content just to cover these costs. Imagine being in that position, trying to stack episodes for your podcast because you know you'll be out of commission for weeks after surgery. That's not just exhausting, it's heartbreaking. And here's the thing, Jeff isn't just sitting quietly. He's been vocal. He's called out David publicly, even asking platforms like Snapchat to deplatform him. At one point, he directly accused David of partying and living it up on brand deals while Jeff was gearing up for yet another expensive surgery. You can feel the frustration in that tweet. It's not just about the money, it's about the principle. Jeff has been fighting this battle largely on his own, and it's clear he feels abandoned by someone who once called him a friend. And that brings us back to the heart of this. Jeff shouldn't have to go through this alone. Not when the accident wasn't his fault, not when the person responsible has more than enough resources to step in. And yet, here we are. Jeff is pushing forward, handling his business, but the weight of this situation, it's heavy, and it's not going unnoticed. to Part 3, David's response. Now, let's shift gears and talk about David Dobrik's response, or lack thereof, to this entire situation. Because let's be real, his handling of it has only made things worse. David has addressed Jeff's surgeries before, claiming he wants to help, but his explanations are, well, let's just call them inconsistent. In one of his podcast episodes, David stated, "I told Jeff I'd pay for his surgeries. He has my word. I want to help him." Sounds promising, right? But then he goes on to say that the reason payments haven't been made is due to some kind of miscommunication. He blames Jeff's assistant or claims he wasn't looped in on the surgeries. And apparently, David doesn't handle these things directly. His team does. When you care about someone, you make it happen. You follow up. You check in. You don't just wait for an invoice to magically appear. And for someone with David's resources, he's got assistants, managers, a whole team. It's hard to believe he couldn't figure out a way to ensure Jeff's medical bills were covered. But here's where it gets messier. Despite claiming to be willing to help, David's actions don't exactly align with his words. Instead of addressing Jeff's struggles head-on, he's on Snapchat flaunting a $20,000 Cartier Panther ring that he regrets buying 4 years ago. Let's pause for a second. 4 years ago was 2020, the same year Jeff's accident happened. So while Jeff was undergoing emergency surgeries, David was out here dropping life-changing money on a diamond-encrusted ring he never even wore. This flaunting of wealth feels tone-deaf, especially when contrasted with Jeff's struggles. And it doesn't stop there. David is known for his extravagant spending, a fruit punch water fountain in his multi-million-dollar home, expensive cars for his friends, luxury watches. The list goes on. Sure, it's his money, and he can spend it how he wants. But when the person you injured is paying $90,000 out of pocket for medical care, it raises questions about priorities. And let's not forget the bigger picture here. This isn't just about unpaid bills. It's about accountability. David's podcast remarks might sound like he's trying to clear the air, but instead they highlight a lack of genuine follow-through. It's one thing to say you care, it's another to act on it. The public isn't buying it either. People are calling David out, saying this whole narrative of "I want to help, but I didn't know" feels more like an excuse than an explanation. Because if you truly wanted to make things right, wouldn't you be proactive? Wouldn't you ensure Jeff never had to worry about another medical bill again? But instead, what we're left with is a growing sense that David might be more concerned with maintaining his image than taking responsibility. And that's where things really start to unravel for him. Part 4, the legal mess. If you thought the situation was bad before, just wait until we dive into the legal mess surrounding it. Because what's been uncovered in court documents makes this whole thing even uglier. After the accident, Jeff claimed that David and his team went to extraordinary lengths to protect themselves financially and legally, even if it meant rewriting history. One of the most shocking allegations? That David's assistant, Natalie, allegedly forged Jeff's signature on insurance forms. These forms reportedly stated that Jeff was the one operating the excavator when the accident happened. But we all know that's not true. There's literal video evidence of David controlling the machine, swinging Jeff around like a rag doll before the horrifying crash. So why then would there be documents claiming Jeff was at fault? According to the court filings, this move was a blatant attempt to shift liability away from David and his LLC. Essentially, they wanted the paperwork to make it look like Jeff caused his own injuries, so they wouldn't have to pay up. Think about that for a second. Instead of taking responsibility for an accident he caused, David, or at least his team, allegedly tried to pin it all on Jeff. And the worst part? This wasn't just speculation. The insurance documents were made public in October of this year, and they paint a pretty damning picture. There was no written contract because we worked together so often as friends. This lack of professionalism, treating serious business ventures as casual friendships, set the stage for disaster. Jeff's responses also show that he was paid through direct deposit and expected to file a W-9 tax form, which further implies he was functioning as an employee in every sense except on paper. In one part of the investigation, Jeff's assistant reportedly told the insurance carrier that Jeff's grip slipped while operating the machine, causing the accident. That wording conveniently ignores the fact that Jeff was only on that machine because David convinced him to do it. For content. It's hard not to feel like this entire situation was engineered to minimize David's financial and legal liability. And yet, the facts don't lie. Jeff wasn't an employee with benefits or protections. He was a friend roped into an extremely dangerous stunt, left to foot the bill, physically, emotionally, and financially. Part 5. Jeff speaks out and closing. As we wrap up this saga, let's turn our attention to Jeff Wittek himself. Over the years, Jeff has been nothing short of resilient. But make no mistake, he's been through hell and back. His most recent surgery, A grueling 5-hour procedure cost him $90,000 out of pocket. That's just one surgery among many, with no financial help from David despite promises to cover the costs. In his own words, Jeff said, "This one was expensive as fike, but I'm hopeful it's the last one." You can hear the exhaustion in his voice, emotionally, physically, and financially. Yet somehow he remains hopeful. While Jeff is pouring his savings into recovery, David Dobrik has been flaunting his wealth on social media. It's all there for the world to see. It's no wonder Jeff, at one point, even called on Snapchat to deplatform David. That's a gut punch right there. It's not just about money, it's about respect. About taking responsibility for your actions and showing up for the people you've hurt. Despite all of this, Jeff has maintained a surprising amount of grace. He's spoken candidly about his struggles, his faith, and his determination to move forward. But that doesn't mean he's letting David off the hook. Jeff's openness is a stark contrast to David's deflections. At the end of the day, this story isn't just about two former friends at odds. It's about accountability, about what happens when loyalty is taken for granted and trust is shattered. His story is a painful reminder of how easily loyalty can be exploited in the pursuit of fame and fortune. But if there's one thing Jeff's journey shows us, it's resilience. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. That's it for today's episode of Brianna Speaks. Thank you for spending time with me. Your thoughts and voices mean everything here. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like this video, and share it with someone who needs to hear this.